What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. White man says white Europeans have always made everybody sick, and that's a fact. That's a fact. You see, there are some white people that's under the influence that they physically dominated the world. That there's some sort of physical supreme warrior that went along and gallivanted around the world and took over these places based off their military might and their guns and everything like that. But that's not what happened. Europeans are the first group of human beings, and I say human beings very lightly, very, very lightly and loosely. They're the first human beings to use weapons of mass destruction, aka biological warfare. They have created, because of their hygiene practices, and this is true, I'm not taking shots, I'm talking truth, because of Europeans and their historically documented hygiene practices. Everywhere they go, they bring plague. That's how they dominate, with plague. It's the plague that comes first. When they came to the Americas, they killed off most of the Native Americans with plague, on purpose and not on purpose, with their plague that they cultivated within their communities over thousands of years of their existence as their hygiene practices were unbecoming of human beings. They almost eliminated themselves twice because of their hygiene practices. And after the second plague, they had to do the transatlantic slave trade to recoup and rebuild their societies. Death and destruction, guns, germs, and bacterial infections. When they went to Africa, they brought plague and diseases to Africa through the rats because of their unhygienic practices and on purpose. The same way when the Native Americans came to America, you know what they did? They put smallpox and various other bacteria that they knew they had on blankets and purposely gave it to the Native Americans to eliminate them biologically. We all know what they did in Africa. They created this thing called AIDS. They created all these bacteria and they purposely spread it throughout Africa, trying to kill us off biologically, mass destruction. White people try to kill the most amount of people possible so they can go in and take their resources. And then they act like they walked in there like soldiers in their shields and shit, and they were some sort of superior warrior, when in fact, they was just the nastiest person in the room. They was just the most unhygienic person in the area. And they spreaded their filth and shit all over the world, genociding people, people dying before the white person was ever in sight. You know how fast bacteria and viruses move? And this is culturally consistent because they themselves are parasitic hominids. They can't do shit on their own. They self-destroy themselves. They attach themselves to a viable host until that host dies and they move on to the next thing because they don't have the internals to develop and build and take care of themselves. That's why they have to take from everybody else. You ever heard of a parasitic bee, a parasitic fly? In every genus of society, there's a parasitic portion of that genus. And for us hominids, the parasites are the Europeans. Some of them know they're parasites and they're trying to do, make changes. Those are the light-skinned ones, okay? They're not parasites. They're cool. They understand. Because a lot of Europeans have been victims of these parasites because all Europeans are not the same. Not all European countries and all European peoples participated in the transatlantic slave trade, participated in global colonialism, participated in destruction of the planet. Not all these Europeans are the same, and not all of them are white. Go ahead, and there's some Europeans, you call them white, and them fighting words. You understand? Because white has a condensation. White is a club of evil, savage, Neanderthal, barbarian subhumans who are nothing but parasites to this planet. They bring death and destruction to the animal kingdom in its complete and totality. And I'm not surprised that Mother Nature, Gaia, is doing what she got to do to fix the problem. Anyway. You guys tell me what you think about this in the comment section. All right, because this white man, I don't even know if he's got, he ain't white. He light skinned. All right, he ain't white. He light skinned. You can always not be white. You do know that, right? You know you can just say, I'm not white no more. You can just disavow that shit and piss. You can disavow that shit and piss. You don't have to be white. Whiteness is not even a real thing. Anyway, this is Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach something. I'm out.
Europeans have always made everyone sick, not just metaphorically, materially, historically, biologically. Every time ships creaked away from ports like damp, overburdened coffins, they carried more than sailors and sermons. They carried outbreaks. They carried entire microbial invasions wrapped in wool and arrogance. You didn't just arrive, you infected. Before your boots hit the ground, before a single flag was planted, before a single word of whatever broken justifications spilled out, you had already altered the biological future of entire continents. The Americas didn't fall because you were superior. They were devastated because you showed up trailing smallpox, measles, influenza, diseases that tore through populations with a violence no sword could ever replicate. And the part that never gets said plainly enough, this wasn't some tragic accident floating in the air like a misunderstanding. It became a method. Blankets, proximity, forced movement. Entire populations shoved into conditions where sickness spread faster than breath itself. You didn't conquer healthy worlds. You destabilized them at the cellular level. While civilizations across Africa, Asia, and the Americas had developed medical systems, botanical knowledge, and surgical practices, actual relationships to health and environment, you were still dumping waste into the same water you drank, wondering why entire cities folded in on themselves every few decades. Then you left your continent and scaled that problem globally. Plantations, disease incubators, slave ships, floating epidemics, colonies, enforced sickness zones where overwork, malnutrition, and exposure did the rest of the work that your pathogens started. And even when the knowledge was there, when quinine was learned, when inoculation practices were observed, you didn't credit the people who understood it. You absorbed it, renamed it, and kept moving like a fever that refuses to break. So when you talk about exploration or expansion, understand what that looked like on the ground. It looked like coughing villages. It looked like empty cities. It looked like generations erased not by battle, but by breath. You didn't just change maps. You changed immune systems. You changed population curves. You changed the biological trajectory of the planet. Europeans didn't just arrive in history. They spread through it. Cope.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan!
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.